Hello students, here I am to do the life history of Herdmania part 7. And in this part I will do the circulatory system. I had told you in the previous lecture that I will be continuing with excretion, nervous system and neural complex. Actually I had forgotten about the circulatory system, and so after the respiratory system we come to the circulatory system, and after this I will be doing all the other topics which I had told you before. So the circulatory system in Herdmania, because of the need of a rich blood supply to the branchial sac and the test for respiration, the blood vascular system is considerably more specialized and advanced than that of the other closely related ascidians. It consists of a heart enclosed in a pericardium and various blood vessels and sinuses. So, according to this introduction, we will be doing the circulatory system in two parts. The first part is the heart and pericardium, as you can see in this first slide. You have already done the position of the heart, and the heart, it is present in the posterior-ventral part of the body. And if you see the detailed structure, it is a tube-like structure. The heart is a tube-like structure, as you can see in this diagram. This diagram is showing a portion of pericardium whose wall is cut open to expose the heart and its attachment with the pericardial wall. So this tubular-like structure inside this continuum over here, it is cut from here, and this is the whole tube-like structure which is enclosed in the outer bigger tube-like structure, the pericardium. This is the upper part, this is the pericardium. And when we see closely, when we observe closely, the heart, the tube-like heart, is connected to the pericardium by a connective tissue flap. This is the connective tissue flap, and throughout the length it is running throughout the length, and it attaches the tube-like heart to the pericardium firmly. Now, to see this connection of pericardium, of heart with pericardium, there is one more clear diagram. Here the diagram is showing heart and pericardium in TS. This was the TS of the whole heart, and this is the histological section of the heart and pericardium. You can see this is the outer covering, the pericardium. The labeling is going a little more ahead. It should finish over here. This layer is the pericardium, and this pericardium is having a pericardial wall and blood sinuses. The pericardial, this is the outer pericardial wall, and this wall is a thick structure with having a lot of blood sinuses inside it. And with this pericardial wall, by a connecting flap, this flap is made up of connective tissue, it is connected to the heart. This is the transverse section of heart, and this is the, you can see the epithelial wall of heart, and above the epithelial wall there is a muscular layer. This black line is showing the muscular layer, and inside this is the lumen of the heart. So I think the structure of pericardium and heart is very clear over here. The pericardium is somewhat transparent tubular structure obliquely extending in the ventrodorsal direction, from about the middle of endostyle up to the liver on the right side of the body. So this is the heart is visible in the right view. If you remember, we had done the left view and the right view of the animal, and in the right view you could see the heart tube extending from the right lobe of the liver. And if you don't remember, you can go back and see in the previous lectures. You will find the diagram and also the explanation. The heart lies ventrally to the right gonad and measures about 7 centimeters in length and 3 millimeter in thickness. Its wall is thick but non-contractile, consisting of an outer connective tissue layer containing blood sinuses and an inner squamous epithelial layer. Its cavity is filled with a clear pericardial fluid containing corpuscles like those of vertebrate blood. So this cavity, it is filled with a clear pericardial fluid. So this was all about the pericardium, and now comes the heart. The heart is also tubular and is completely enclosed within the pericardium. A thin flap of connective tissue on one side connects the wall of the heart with that of the pericardium. The heart is as long as the pericardium and open at both ends. It opens at both ends because it is connected with the vessels. On the one side it is connected with the ventral aorta, and on the other side these are vessels coming out. This we'll do in the next slide, which vessels are coming out of the heart. Its wall is thin, muscular and contractile, consisting of a single layered inner epithelium and an outer thin layer of striated muscle fibers. The latter are the only striated muscles in the body of Herdmania. The beating of the heart is reversible alternately in dorsoventral and ventrodorsal directions, and therefore the direction of the flow of blood is periodically reversed in the entire system. Such an arrangement is made possible by a small pear-shaped structure which moves to and fro like a shuttle in the pericardial cavity. During diastole, that is diastole, it's a relaxation, extending of the heart. So it is a relaxation of the heart. This structure remains in its normal position in the middle of the pericardium. But during systole, it moves in a direction opposite to that of the wave of contraction. And due to this contraction, due to this movement, the heart presses against the opposite end so that the blood can flow only in the desired direction and its backward flow is checked. And this is all about the structure of heart. Next comes the blood vessels, and as you can see, this is a beautiful diagram, colorful diagram. In this you can see blue colored vessels and the red colored vessels, and in the developed vertebrates, the blue color it shows the veins and the red color shows the arteries, but in Herdmania it is not so. As you have done in the previous slide, the flow of blood, it reverses periodically. So at one time the vessels which are acting like veins, they will be acting like arteries in the next instance. So the blood vessels, here you can see there are mainly 4 kind of blood vessels: the ventral aorta, the dorsal aorta, brachiovisceral vessel, and the cardiovisceral vessel. So the blood vessels are well developed. The larger vessels have a delicate lining of endothelium, but the smaller ones are mere spaces. Spaces like blood sinuses. Four main vessels, the ventral aorta, dorsal aorta, brachiovisceral vessel and cardiovisceral vessel, supply the blood or collect it depending upon the direction of circulation from various parts of the body. A fifth vessel called brachiocardiac vessel is rudimentary or altogether absent in hernia but occurs in many related accidents. So first and foremost we will come to the ventral aorta. This is the longest blood vessel of Herdmania. Ventral aorta, first let's see it in the diagram. Ventral aorta, as the name is suggesting, it is present on the ventral side of the animal, and here you can see very clearly that it is lining the ventral part of the branchial sac. It originates from the ventral end of the heart, and this is the heart. There is no labeling given of the heart. This is the heart. Here you can see the dotted line. This is the heart, and here it is continuing in these vessels, and the ventral side it is continuing in the ventral aorta. So here this is the ventral aorta connects, and it is connected here with the heart. It originates from the heart, ventral end of the heart, and immediately bifurcates into an anterior and posterior ventral aorta. Both limbs are embedded in the ventral wall of branchial sac just beneath the endostyle. The anterior limb runs forwards towards the branchial siphon, and the posterior limb this anterior limb, before it goes to the branchial siphon, it is giving many transverse branches, and these branches join the peripharyngeal and subtentacular vessels. The posterior limb runs backwards towards the esophageal area, this is the esophageal area. Here the esophagus emerges out of the pharynx, giving out several pairs of transverse vessels to branchial wall like the anterior limb. Both limbs, these are the transverse vessels, and both limbs also supply the endostyle, which is present just above it, and mental by numerous branches. A stout ventral test vessel, this is the stout ventral test vessel, arises from the ventral aorta at its base and runs into the test. This is the outer covering test of the animal. So from ventral aorta, one ventral test vessel is coming out and it is supplying the test. So this was all about ventral aorta. Now we come to the dorsal aorta. This is also a large vessel found embedded in the mid-dorsal wall of branchial sac beneath the dorsal lamina. This is the position of the dorsal lamina, and it is present beneath the dorsal lamina. Anteriorly, it gives a short branch to the neural gland. Here, this is the neural vessel to the neural gland. and then joins the peripharyngeal and subtentacular vessels. Then these are the subtentacular vessel, which is the labeling is given the subtentacular vessel, and these are the peripharyngeal vessels and transverse vessels. Posteriorly, it continues into the branchiovisceral vessel. Here you can see this is the branchiovisceral vessel. This is the dorsal aorta. This was its anterior part going into the peripharyngeal and subtentacular vessel, and the posterior part is ending into the branchiovisceral vessel. Throughout its length, it receives the dorsal ends of the paired transverse vessels of branchial wall. This I've already told you. This is joining the transverse vessels of the branchial sac. Third is the branchiovisceral vessel. This is a short vessel continuing from the posterior end of dorsal aorta. Here, this is the dorsal aorta and it is emerging from the posterior end. After running back for a short distance, it bifurcates into small right branch and a stout left branch. The right branch, called the right esophageal vessel, supplies the right lobe of liver, right lip of esophageal area and the esophagus. The left branch, called the ventrointestinal vessel, this is the ventrointestinal vessel. The dorsal aorta is blue, no? So it is continuing, it is coming here like this. Here it is giving that esophageal and all the branches to glands and all. And then that was the left branch, and the right branch, it is continuing below the intestine as the ventrointestinal vessel. This vessel is more extensive and it is running towards the ventral side. It supplies the left lip of esophageal area, left lobe of liver and the stomach. Thereafter, it continues along the ventral wall of intestine, giving off several short ramifications into it. These are the short ramifications. The last vessel is the cardiovisceral vessel. This vessel arises from the dorsal end of the heart. I have shown you, this is the heart, the dotted structure. It is the heart. You can label it yourself because here I cannot see the labeling as it is, the heart is not labeled. So this I am showing, this is the heart enclosed in the pericardium, and from its dorsal side is emerging the cardiovisceral vessel. Here it is labeled, this is the cardiovisceral vessel. It bends dorsalwards and soon divides into several branches. It bends dorsalward means it is running towards the dorsal side of the animal, and you know the dorsal side of the animal is marked by the presence of atrial siphon and atrial aperture. Close to its origin, it gives off two branches running onto the right side of the body. One of these branches, called the right hepatic vessel, goes to the right lobe of the liver. This is the right hepatic vessel, and as the name suggests, it's supplying the right lobe of the liver. The second one itself soon divides into two branches. One called the esophageal vessel, passing along the posterior border of the right lobe of liver to supply the esophagus, while the other is called the test vessel. The test vessel and the esophageal vessel. After giving these two branches, the cardiovisceral vessel slightly turns to the left side and divides into three stout branches. The dorsalmost branch which runs along the mid-dorsal line of body towards the atrial siphon. From near its base, it gives off three branches, one going into the test, the other called gonadial branch going to the right gonad, and the third called left esophageal branch. You will see all these branches, they are here. These are all the branches which are going in the organs. Thus, reaching the base of atrial siphon, this dorsalmost branch terminates into a circular subtentacular vessel. This is a subtentacular vessel running around the base of the atrial siphon. This is the atrial siphon. This is its base. It is running around the base of the atrial siphon and giving out 6 to 8 fine siphonal branches to the wall of atrial siphon. These are the siphonal branches. These are not labeled over here, but these are running along the line of the siphon. They are the siphonal vessels. The second branch, called the gonadial vessel, passes obliquely ventralwards and runs into the left gonad. This is the gonadial vessel running into the gonad. The third ventralmost branch is longest. At a short distance from its origin, it divides into two stout branches. One of the latter itself divides into two branches, a stout dorsal test vessel going to the test and a gastric vessel going to the ventral region of the, these are these vessels, ventral region of stomach. The second one, called the dorsointestinal vessel, runs along the left lobe of the liver and stomach, supplying these organs, and then continuing along dorsal wall of intestine, giving into it several ramifications which anastomose with the ramifications of the ventrointestinal vessel. As is evident from the foregoing, the alimentary canal is very richly supplied with blood vessels from different sources. The branchial sac receives its transverse vessels both from ventral and dorsal aorta. These vessels fall in 4 sets. The first set has 5 to 7 thick transverse vessels on each side, extending across the entire branchial sac from mid-ventral to mid-dorsal line. These are thicker dorsally but gradually taper ventrally. Since the mid-dorsal axis of the branchial sac is much shorter, these vessels diverge from dorsal to ventral side like the ribs of a fan. You can see over here, these are diverging. This dorsal lamina is small and the ventral lining of the branchial sac is large. So these kind of originate and then spread like a fan. The second set also has 5 to 7 vessels, which are however shorter and thinner. These continue from mid-ventral line up to the second row of interstigmatic depressions of branchial wall and regularly alternate with the vessels of the first set. The third set has a double number of transverse vessels extending from mid-ventral up to the fourth row of interstigmatic depressions of branchial wall. These regularly alternate with the vessels of the first and second sets. The fourth set has shortest transverse vessels, double in number, than those of the third set. These extend from mid-ventral line up to the sixth row of interstigmatic depressions of branchial wall. All transverse vessels give out loop-like vessels to the various branchial folds and anastomosing lateral longitudinal branches which form a meshwork in the branchial wall. Numerous parieto-branchial branches of transverse vessels run in the trabeculae. The internal longitudinal vessels of the branchial wall, running antero-posteriorly, number 4 to 10 on each side. These arise anteriorly from the peripharyngeal vessel and terminate posteriorly around the esophageal area. These communicate with transverse vessels at crossings and also give out the transverse intrastigmatic vessels. If you remember, we had done in the branchial sac part where I had described the wall of the pharynx, which is having a number of stigmata, and there are vessels running around the stigmata. These are longitudinal vessels and the transverse vessels. The peripharyngeal vessel is a circular vessel lying just beneath the peripharyngeal groove. It connects the ventral and dorsal aortae. The subtentacular vessel is also a circular vessel running just beneath the tentacular crown. It gives out a tentacular vessel in each tentacle and 6 to 8 siphonal vessels into the mantle of the siphon. So these were all the blood vessels present in third millennium. To the course of blood circulation, and this is shown here very clearly in this diagram. The blood from the ventral aorta, it can go to branchial vessels also and to heart also. So if we take one way of circulation, from ventral aorta, the blood is going to the branchial vessels. Then from branchial vessels, it is collected into the dorsal aorta, and from the dorsal aorta, it can again, usually it goes to the brachiovisceral vessel, and from the brachiovisceral vessel, it goes to the visceral organs on the chest, and from these organs, the cardiovisceral vessel collects the blood and it pours it into the heart, which passes it from the ventral side into the ventral aorta. So this was one way of circulation. The other way is the reverse way. From ventral aorta, the blood goes into the heart, and from the heart through the cardiovisceral vessel it goes into the organs, and from the organs it is collected by the brachiovisceral vessel and poured into the dorsal aorta. And from the dorsal aorta, it goes into the branchial vessels, which is collected by the ventral aorta. And there's a small side circulation going on along with this main circulation. This is from the ventral aorta to the chest, and from the chest it comes back into the ventral aorta. So this is the course of circulation. Now the blood. In the blood, you can see all these kind of corpuscles, and these all corpuscles, they are having a large number of vacuoles in them, and some are having nuclei and the other are not having the nuclei. You can see the structure, the number wise name of the corpuscles is given over here. The first ones are the orange corpuscles, second the signet cells, third the green cells, fourth the compartment cells, fifth eosinophilous cells, sixth lymphocytes, seventh leukocytes, and there is also the eighth kind of cells, which are the nephrocytes. So this finishes the circulatory system of the animal. Thank you, and look forward to my next lecture.